Two, three. Well, hello everyone. Welcome to Meet Tina here. I would like to thank everyone who tuned into this channel, listening to one of my favorite speaker, Isaac Mars. I met him at the UFO conference this past weekend, and I found him to be—he's one of the speaker, but not just being an amazing speaker. He's also a theoretical physics scientist and also spiritual guide. I just found him to be very fascinating with his talk. I mean, there's so much that I'm still like trying to process in my brain. Isaac, let's welcome you. How about that? Let's get
Well,
into the talk that we have here.
yeah,
Welcome
thank
here,
you so
Isaac.
much.
You are so intelligent, and it just what you have shared in your talk, which I have uploaded two of his videos from UFO conference, guys. So if you haven't seen it, please go there and look for his videos. You're gonna love his talk. Not only he's brilliant, intelligent, he's funny as heck. I mean, you can see the audience. You make the audience laugh.
Hmm.
Isaac, you're just quick with it like that. So anyway, I had a great time at the conference, and a lot of stuff you talk. That's really fascinate me about um, even what you experience with ET, because I'll be honest, I never experienced I met ET before. I experienced
Hmm.
something, but not like what you have, interaction. Would you
Yeah.
like to share with us about that? How did you go? I mean, how did you go about connecting with ET? How did you and come up with this book? This is his book, okay? Unity Theory.
Yeah, I'd love to share. Firstly, I'd like to thank you, Tina, for, welcoming me on the
Absolutely.
show and experiencing those beautiful moments this past weekend with me and winning all the prizes you won and tapping
Oh, I
into
didn't
your
get to tell you
intuition.
guys quickly. I forgot, sorry for cutting you off. He gave us a raffle and I won two prizes, one of his book and one of this picture as the first prize.
Yeah, and
You
that
want to
that
share
picture,
you want to share with the audience what
sure.
this represents?
Sure. So, throughout my travels and my awakening experience, I ended up in Sedona, Arizona, and there are a lot of Hopi Native Americans in that area. And one of them is Bear Cloud. He has an art gallery, and he is also um, a seer. So he's gone on vision quests and have been given these downloads of what to paint. And one back corner of his entire gallery is filled with what I truly believe in my heart to be pictures and scenes from Sirius A in the Sirius star system. And I'm personally from Sirius A. That's where I resonate with where my soul journey started. And so it just meant a lot to me. I went back there and I was filled with tears and just awe of the beauty of what he brings to life. And that was a personal thing that I bought for myself. But I thought it was like it's time to share this beautiful gift with someone else. So I involved it in the raffle, and you tapped into your intuition and your heart, and you're like, oh, I'm gonna get this, and you manifested it, didn't you? So.
I actually kind of knew. I heard it's so weird being over there at Mount Shasta that my intuition just like that,
Mm-hmm.
just right on.
Mm-hmm.
And I just some of you audience who's never watched this before may think this is weird, but I think we all have that intuition. We all are very psychic, okay, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
So at Mount Shasta, it's like all these people came together. Everybody just seemed to have like just beautiful energy, Isaac, just kind, wanting to learn, wanting to help, wanting to share, wanting to grow. And I
Mm-hmm.
think with this energy, I have shared in one of my videos that it creates this amazing, powerful vortex of energy to me. And it helps kind of activate, all this intuition that everyone already have, you
Mm-hmm.
know. And when he gave out the raffle, I knew I was gonna win the first prize, which is this picture. I mean, already I heard that in my mind, my head, my ears, whatever. It's like, okay, he's gonna call JJ, and I was like, that's it. I knew.
Yep.
And then when he called my number, I'm like dancing up to him and grab my prize here.
Right.
And that represents that my connection is also from Sirius A. But I
Yeah.
mentioned to you before that we also came from a different star system, correct?
Hmm. Yeah, so all of us have many different aspects throughout many levels of reality. We're all multidimensional beings. And as I talk in unity theory, I explain that it's not just multidimensional, you could call it omnidimensional. There are infinite realities in which this being and your being all simultaneously exist. And the kicker of it is that they're all just as real as this one. And so, as we continue to step into our power and raise our vibration, all of those different aspects are coming into one timeline. And that one timeline, or what I would actually describe as one set of infinite amounts of timelines, all have all our highest abundance, our greatest prosperity, the highest amounts of peace and joy and love and harmony. And we get to experience that. And the more that the collective consciousness of humanity continues to rise, the more that we will start to experience the powers and abilities that come along with that heightened consciousness. Being able to perceive these different moments that are in these very close but yet different timelines, and vice versa. There's been some interesting things happening with me recently that I'll explain later on. But to answer your first question, if you want, I can give a little bit to your viewers about what happened to me last year on Mount Shasta for my
Absolutely.
contact experience.
Please do. Yes, absolutely. Also, I want to explain too what you just said earlier. Do you mean that our timeline is going to collapse and we're going to experience like everything in one?
So my personal belief, and take what resonates and disregard what doesn't, is that the more that we raise our awareness in this timeline, the more that the other infinite versions of us also are going through that same experience. And so once we realize that all of those aspects are us, they're all Isaac, then all of the different Isaacs will manifest into one single divine being that will be able to have all these abilities. It's why everything everywhere all at once, that new movie that came out recently, is
I
one of my
saw that.
favorite movies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so the version of Isaac that is, let's say, a kung fu master will be integrated into this reality, this timeline. And so we will be able to have all these abilities that we never really had or gained in this lifetime, but had to exist in the infinite other timelines in order for perceived linear time to make any sense logically. And so that's why unity theory is so powerful, is because it explains that the only way that we could experience perceived linear time from, a beginning to an end, the only way that could happen is if there were other infinite timelines, because that's the only way that we could have free will. And so this means that all of those things are happening, and it's rather simple. You know, it's either that's how it works or none of it makes sense. And so to me, I would rather have it make sense and be very empowering than for nothing to make sense. And, we're all just blindly moving through reality with no guidance. But from my own personal experiences and from the experiences that I've learned from many other beings, this is how it works. And it's tried and true. It's per the 12 universal laws, the 7 hermetic principles. What we think creates our reality, and that has to do with the vibration that we're putting out, which taps into the infinite moments and timelines that already exist within the all, within the everything. And that dates back to, ancient spiritual philosophy in the Eastern traditions, where they talk about within nothing, there is everything.
Mm-hmm.
And so nothing and everything are the opposites to the same coin, the opposite sides to the same coin. So that is how it works in a nutshell. But for people to understand it a bit more clearly, it's easier to read it in my book.
Okay. Well, yeah, because this is like a lot what you're just sharing, and for a lot of people who's never haven't read anything in this, field would be
Mhm.
like, yeah, it doesn't make sense. No way.
Well,
Right?
they try to explain it in a kind of more disconnected scientific way within quantum theory, and some quantum physicists and quantum theorists have tried to explain that we are what they call quantum beings. And what they mean by that is if you go to a grocery store and you really want, let's say a soda pop, even though most of us probably watching this don't even drink soda pop anymore, you have the choice between Pepsi and Coke. So you choose the Pepsi that day. But to be a quantum being, there's a version of you that decided to choose the Coke that day, and it created this splitting effect. But this, to me, is only this is a more convoluted way of viewing it, because to me, again, there has to be infinite timelines. And so there's a version of us that chose the Coke, the version of us that chose the Pepsi, that chose the Sunkist, the 7 Up. And all of those things are all happening, but it's what our current vibration that we're putting out chooses to experience, which is the experience that we pull into our current life. And so by knowing that all of these things already exist, this means that if we can imagine something, not only is it possible, it already exists, and we have the capability to tap into that experience. But the thing is, as we learn in unity theory, our power is equal to each other because we live in a holodynamic universe, meaning
Mm.
you are the universe, I'm the universe, everybody else is the universe, and we all have free will. So, how does that all work together? Well, it's based on vibration. So, let's say somebody in this scenario, they want to create from fear. Well, fear is a low vibration. So,
Mm.
that'll be down here on the power of creation. But if someone within their vicinity or their reality is creating from way up here in unconditional love, then this vibration will be innately more powerful than this one. And it'll transform this one into a better experience because it's a perfect system that's all about reaching the greatest good for the all. And so if someone gains a lot of power in unconditional love, the reason they can have that power is because they're responsible and they wouldn't misuse it. And that's why I consider it a perfect system, because it makes the most sense in that way. And like I said, unity theory is all about the universal natural intelligence, this infinite intelligence that creates things in a very intuitive and intelligent manner. And so how this really relates to our reality, tying it back into the whole extraterrestrial phenomenon,
Mm.
the ETs will not interact with us on a global level until the collective vibration chooses that, because
Mm.
they are respecting our free will. And since they're respecting our free will, only those that are choosing within their own experience without infringing upon other people's free will, that they're ready for ET contact, that they want to initiate those experiences, those are the ones that are experiencing it. Now, there may be some individuals out there that they're like, well, I never put the intention out, but then I experienced it anyway, and then it woke me up. And to that situation, I would explain that we came into this reality through a veil of forgetfulness. So we forgot our power to experience what it's like to be limited. And so, from my perspective, what I believe is that before that incarnation, the soul would have chosen, all right, this is going to be part of my awakening experience so that I can remember why I came here to raise the collective consciousness and whatever their story may be.
Mm.
And so for me, after my experiences, as many can see in my first talk when I went to go talk to Elon Musk about reality and how
You're gonna
he
have to let us know what do you think about Elon Musk, just in
we'll
case
get
some of
there.
those did not get to listen.
Yeah, we'll get there. So,
Yeah.
but when I was on my way to try and meet up with him, I had all these signs and synchronicities pointing to the fact that I'm this starseed being, that I've lived lives as other extraterrestrial, in other extraterrestrial worlds. And so, as I was going through this experience, I was feeling like I need to contact my star family so that I can work with them and work with my fellow humans and other star seeds in humanity so that we can all create the best reality for all of us together. And so that's when I really started in my path of reconnecting the star seeds, bringing us all together to unify, to enter what I call unity, well, many call unity consciousness. And what I've experienced firsthand with unity consciousness is that just two individual beings coming together and sharing their truth, sharing their love, sharing their heart with each other, they become much more powerful. Because there are keys that I hold for you that you don't have on your own. And there are keys for me that you hold that I don't have on my own. So
Mhm.
when we come together and we share experiences and space and love with each other, then we both grow and we both become more powerful because of it. And so, yeah, last year in the early August time, I ended up having contact experience with in a similar setting in Unity Consciousness with my close spirit brother, Nathan Lindsay. So you can find Nathan Lindsay on YouTube as Vibes in Frequencies. That's N, not AND. So the letter N, Vibes in Frequencies. And Nathan, he makes a lot of YouTube videos, many about crystals, many about reality and how it works. And he and I have very similar perspectives on to, what's happening in this reality.
Mhm.
And so last August, he and I just got this intuitive download, hey, we should go up on the mountain. And we're like, okay, we packed up some sleeping bags, a tarp, and we just started climbing. And we just kept climbing and climbing. And we got about two-thirds up the mountain, not to the very top, but pretty high up there. And from about 9 o'clock p.m. to about 2 in the morning, we just had profound contact experiences. At first, he saw a star, and he said, "Hey, that's a UFO." And I was like, "I don't know. It just looks like a star to me." And
Right?
I realized that my mind was getting in the way, and I was like, I can't be thinking too much. I know that the mind can be kind of contradictory to what's going on in these spiritual experiences. And so
Mhm.
I just let go of my thoughts and I'm like, no, I believe him. I trust Nathan. I really think this is a UFO. And
Right.
that's when I started to see it move. And so I thinking back to what I saw in Stephen Greer's Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind documentary, which to me was very empowering. A lot of the people making contact with these beings, they ask them to do things to show them that they're benevolent and that they're good. And so we started talking to this one little star-shaped UFO that was moving around, and Nathan asked it to make a circle, and lo and behold, it made a circle for us. I asked it to make a square, and it made a square. I asked it to make a heart, and it made a heart shape. And
Wow.
all these things started happening, and we noticed that there were all these other ships that were jumping in. They were kind of teleporting out of nowhere, creating
Mhm.
these equilateral triangles and these, rows of three or four. And we started realizing they were responding to us with some really big questions. And Nathan asked me, "Who do you think it is?" I said, "I think it's the Galactic Federation." And the ships would get real bright and then they would dim, as to say, "Yes, you're right." And then it went on to say, Nathan asked me, "What star nations do you think are here?" And I said, "I think our whole family is here." And then they would brighten up their ships again. And then it got to the point where we were just interacting with so many. He was interacting with some, I was interacting with some. We were starting to cry a little bit, like, wow, this is so powerful. Like, these beings
How
are
many
here.
how many of them that you guys saw?
By the end of the night, it had to have been over 1,000, probably.
No way.
Yeah, it was like every star in the sky. We couldn't tell the difference between the stars and the ships. In fact, to this day, I'm not thoroughly convinced that all the stars out there are just stars. I'm pretty sure many of them
Well,
are.
it's funny that you said that because I had my own personal experience a long time ago with that too. And they all look like stars, but I had like I looked up and I saw thousand, thousand, thousand. It's like the whole star, and they're all moving at the same speed, at the same direction.
Hmm.
And to me, the star doesn't do that.
Hmm.
You don't see it fill up the whole sky. So when
Hmm.
you mentioned about that, that right this moment got me to question that too. Maybe
Hmm.
back that time I did see it.
Yeah.
I just didn't know how to communicate with them back then. Yeah.
Right. And the mind, it gets in the way. It's like, oh no, I'm just seeing things, or maybe my eyes moving in a weird way. But yeah, and so I really recommend to anybody watching this, follow your intuition. Ask your heart, which one of those stars up there isn't a star? And ask them if they'll move for you. Ask them if they'll make a circle or a heart shape and prove to you that they're here out of unconditional love and respecting your free will. And I think that the more people do this, the more the collective consciousness reaches that vibration where we will make global contact, which was the entire point of me sharing my scientific ideas at this past conference with Rob Potter.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it was really profound. And then it got to the point where they were being so playful late at night, probably 12:30, 1 in the morning, where they started lining up, in a snake kind of shape and going back and forth, making these rainbow color patterns with their ships. And it was so profound. It was one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. And we just kept asking them questions and playing with them and laughing and having a good time. And then there was this bigger ship that kind of came down in the center of everything. And it looked like it was a piece of a ship that was only partially in this dimension. And the rest of the ship, which was probably much bigger, was not visible.
Wow.
And that little piece of the ship came down, and Nathan asked, "Do you see that?" I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, "What do you think they're doing?" I was like, "I'm not sure." And then these little four red ships came out of that little mothership thing, and they were facing the four directions. And then I said the words, "I think they're upgrading us." And then in that moment, every red ship shot out and down and across the sky faster than the speed of light, creating like these light lines, like if in the movie Tron. I don't know if you've seen the movie Tron.
Hmm.
And it had to have been faster than the speed of light because it was like poof, and they
Wow.
were already gone. And we're like, what the heck? And he and I both lifted off the ground and we're like, whoa, did you feel that energy? And
Oh,
it was something like we'd never felt before. And we were physically moved by the energy we felt. And so it was just really profound.
did
And
you
then,
feel anything different after you felt that?
um, I'm gonna go with pure honesty here and say I not necessarily. I feel that something definitely happened, but I think that the way that our galactic brothers and sisters work is much more in subtle energies. They don't want to do, for the most part, in my experience, they don't want to do anything that's going to drastically change our life. For example, at the conference, there were some things that I didn't fully resonate with. Like, I'm not going to say names, but some of the speakers said how there are ETs out there that are going to, give you abilities you've never had before. And to me, that doesn't make a lot of sense because in the interaction and the telepathic connection that I had with that big fleet of ships was that they're here to hold space for us while we do the work. And they will help us in unseen ways, but they're not going to, try and force us to have these greater abilities than we have chosen to experience in this current moment. And so I think that it is important to be cautious of people sharing experiences where they were forced to have these upgrades that like made them mathematicians overnight or something, because to me that I mean, let's be honest, the benevolent ETs are not the only ETs, and there are
Mhm.
dark ETs that have the capabilities to do that.
Mm.
And so there was just some conflicting information that I heard at the talk. And at the end of the day, from a high spiritual perspective, we are all one.
Mm.
So whether they're dark or light, to me, they're all family. And so I
Right.
don't judge any of their experiences, but they just don't resonate with me. And I don't want to align with those types of things. I would rather, how cool it would be to be Isaac and to be this random guy from the middle of nowhere coming out and showing the
You
world
are.
that you can do it, that
Right.
you are the powerful one. That's what I feel in my heart is the truth, and that we don't need anything outside of ourselves to show the world that.
Right.
And that is what I think people enjoy about my experience is that I'm from the suburbs in a small town that nobody's really heard of, and I'm average height, average weight, you know. I don't even have like a super manly voice or anything, yet I have all these experiences that I just chose courage. And I'm here to show other people that they can do it too. And the more that we do that, the higher our vibration rises, and the more through the 12 universal laws and the seven hermetic principles that we learn that that higher vibration is innately more powerful. So nobody can force us to be victims. Nobody can force us to experience war and abuse and murder. Like we have to give the power of our fear and our belief of their power over us for that to manifest. And
Mhm.
so I think we're living in the most exciting times in human history right now, and I'm honored to know each and every one of you that I meet and see again. I feel like we've been probably doing this for a very, very long time. But,
Exactly.
mhm,
Now, okay, in your book,
mhm,
what is it in your book that you feel is a very okay, I'm trying to think of the words,
mhm,
unity theory. You said you want to share this to people, what you wrote in the book.
mhm,
What will a person get out of this book after they read? I'll be honest with you, I haven't had a chance to read your book yet.
mhm.
We just got back. So I'm just gonna ask you, like, what is
Sure.
it in your book that, just kind of summarize a little bit, what is it that people would get out of that?
Absolutely. So, by reading my book, it says right in the beginning that this book will lead you to remembering who you really are and how powerful your potential is, and how to realize that potential there are certain universal truths that we need to remember, because as many of us believe, in order to come down to this vibration, to come down to this reality, we had to forget who we were in order to have the experience of disconnection, to have the experience of separation. But what unity theory's main message is that everything is unified, that we are all one experience, experiencing itself in all these different bodies and lifetimes. And when we remember that, and we remember that this is scientific and that this is logical, then we can finally give ourselves permission to realize that the true science is spirituality, that this is something that's ancient, that the stories and legends that we have been led to believe are myths are more likely than not true experiences of people being able to fly, people being indestructible, because that was the vibration that they were putting out in that moment. And so the main message of unity theory is how we can overcome the suffering, the limitation, and the lack that we experience through the greatest illusion of all. And
Mm-hmm.
that's the illusion of separation. I fundamentally cannot be separate from the reality that I'm experiencing. I need the very ground underneath my feet to describe that I'm walking. If there's no ground there, then I'm not walking. I would just be moving my legs through empty space. So we go together with the reality around us, like back goes together with front. And the fact that we need black to understand what white is, and vice versa. And so we've been taught to believe that we're in a reality where the light side is always struggling to overcome the darkness, and we need to overcome the darkness permanently. Well, if we do that, then what's the point? Because we need the darkness to know that we're the light.
Mm.
And so it's this constant revolving door of experiences that we as the universe are choosing to experience so that we can feel what it's like to be the light, to be love, and we can feel what it's like to be afraid and to feel lonely. And it takes all of these experiences together to be able to have the gift of life. And so that's why when I was on the Young Visionaries panel during the Morningstar Revelations conference,
Mm-hmm.
somebody asked me something that spurred a thought about good and evil.
Mm.
Well, evil is live backwards. So it's a backwards way of living. So when we realize this, we realize that at the base of every evil action is always a positive intention. It's just not being fully potentialized, as Dr. Vernon Wolf of holodynamics would explain it. So to find someone stuck in a unconscious loop of using primitive methods and ways of thinking to reach their positive intentions, we'll see them doing what we would classify historically as horrible or bad or, abusive actions. But the thing is, what they're trying to do is receive love.
Mm.
They're trying to do everything that we're doing on the side of the light, but they're doing it in a backwards way. And so when we can realize that, that's when we can realize everybody that's ever projecting their negativity onto us is in pain. Only hurt people hurt people. So when we look at things from that perspective, then we can let go of expectations. We can let go of our attachments to the way that we think things should be. And we can just experience the way that things are and show those beings compassion. And because all the beings that I've met that have been stuck in those loops, all it took was a little bit of unconditional love and acceptance and just listening to what they're experiencing for them to finally say, wow, this is the first time I've ever been heard. Thank you so much. I feel like I can finally step out of this cycle now. And so that's what we're experiencing.
So you
And
said all those beings that you have met, and those are human beings, correct? Or are you
yes,
talking about human beings that's non-human?
I'm talking about human beings right now, but there are non-humans on this planet. I truly believe there are, because if you think about things from a tactical perspective, I was in the army for almost 7 years, so I was taught a lot about tactics. And from a tactical perspective and a logical perspective, it doesn't make sense that humanity would naturally evolve to enslave itself. It doesn't make any sense. So
Mm.
this means that there are more than likely and a very high probability uh, these negative extraterrestrials that came here and terraformed this planet and specifically created a genetic jump in one of the species on the planet to create a slave race. If you look in the ancient Sumerian tablets, their writings directly describe the genetic alteration of mankind. So there's no evolutionary progression from Homo erectus and other Homo families into Homo sapiens, which we are today. So that means something changed it all. And to me, that was an intelligent race so that they could have workers and slaves. And when you think about it from a philosophical perspective, the only
Mhm.
difference between a slave, let's say in the 1800s, and someone working for someone else today are wages,
Mhm.
is money. We've just convinced ourselves that, if we're getting paid, then it's okay to be a slave and to work under somebody else's thumb and their authority. And to me, that's just still unacceptable. We're living sovereign beings, and we deserve to live a life of freedom where you can do what you want and I can do what I want as long as it's not hurting anybody else. And knowing how reality works, reaffirming that the more loving that we are to each other, the more I help you and the more you help me, the more that we all prosper.
Right.
And so that's what unity theory is all about. It's bringing a simple philosophy that is not convoluted, not contradictory, very easy to understand and to live, and bringing it to the people and poking holes in the story, saying like, why are we spending millions and billions of dollars on a particle accelerator when that's not helping anybody that's starving? You know what I'm saying? We
Mhm.
have all the systems we need right now to make sure that no man, woman, or child is starving, homeless, all these other experiences that have to do with suffering and the illusion of separation. We can overcome all of that together using the current systems that we have. But the thing is, the current systems were constructed to be misused. And
Mhm.
that's where we're at. For thousands of years, we've been experiencing that.
So
And
how can that be changed? Because I mean, as well know, where the whole world is being manipulated, controlled by the what we call the cabal.
mhm, mhm. And
It's
so,
been there for beginning of time, so they're not gonna lose their power or their money and not having what you call, slave by paying you wages, for you to work your ass off.
right.
A lot of
And
people work, they get paid, and still they have no life. Yeah.
right. And so the only way that we're going to move forward is by people choosing courage. And everything higher vibrational than courage is all tied to unconditional love. It's all positive. And everything that is fearful is something negative. And so when we are living in fear, we're giving our power away to others. We are viewing reality from a victim mindset. Therefore, the vibration that we're putting out is that I'm going to be a victim. So, what do we experience? We experience being a victim where people have power over us. They tell us what to do. We can get thrown in jail. All these not so fun things. But
Mhm.
if we start choosing courage, sure, there might be a lot of low vibrational energy we have to transform, and we'll have to go through trials and tribulations to do that. But the more that we do it and we have faith, and the more that we see reality reflecting that courage and that love back to us, and the more that it's reflected back to us, the more faith we have to continue following that path. So it becomes an exponential experience, meaning we start off and are like, okay, I just read unity theory and it's telling me that I can choose courage and my experience is going to be better. Well, then they choose courage, and then this individual chooses courage, and then they see it's reflected back to them, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, it worked!" And then they have more faith now, and so because they have more faith, they choose courage again, and they see it work again, and then it ends up going straight up where they're limitless because they can see clearly that it's a system that works. It's a way of thinking that's adaptive and empowering. And so the more that we do this and the more that we choose this frequency, the less the low vibrational beings have power over us. Since,
I hear what you're saying here, and but the thing is, Isaac, a lot of people are going through kind of like, survival mode.
yes.
And when they go through survival mode, it's kind of hard for them to be consciously aware of their emotion,
Mm-hmm.
where they're at with their emotion. So every little things when they're on that hamster wheel going, trying to make a living or trying to, cover all the expenses. This is what's going on now to a lot of people that I know. Like I said, it's tough for them to even be aware of all the emotion, to be courageous and not having fear of how they're gonna feed their family the next day, things
Mm-hmm.
like that. How your theory is absolutely beautiful. I
Mm-hmm.
love that. But a lot of people are going through that for so long. How are they gonna be able to turn that around
Mm-hmm.
and using your concept that you have shared in your book? You know what I'm
Yeah.
talking about? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the unfortunate truth about this is that what we learn in unity theory is that what we're experiencing is what we're choosing.
Mm-hmm.
So, what this means is the only way to break out of our cycles of suffering and get out of the survival mentality is to take responsibility for that. And so, I have a lot of compassion for the beings out there that are still doing that and that are still having a difficult time. But the thing is, the side of the light, we can't convince them. Because if we try and convince them, oh, this is how it works, this is better for you, then we become no different than those that are choosing the dark. We
Mm-hmm.
start to manipulate them. And that's not what I'm here to do. And so on the light, we can only lead by example. So that's why it's so important for us to learn the science and experience how it works firsthand, and then believe in ourselves and believe in the universal laws so that we can be that shining light, that brilliant example for the world that this is how it works. And so for those that are still stuck in those cycles, I would say that they're waiting for you and for me to be that example so
Mm-hmm.
that they can see that this is real. This isn't some, woo woo theory. That
Right.
that's one thing that I heard back from Dr. Vernon Wolf, the author of Hollow Dynamics. When I asked him what he thought about my book after he read it, he said, "Well, it's not a theory." And so I only title it a theory because one, it kind of sounds cool, and two,
I love
and
it.
two,
It's
um,
cool, guys.
right. I want people to have their own choice through free will, whether or not they want to believe in it as the truth. And so there was something else that I wanted to say about that. It's that those that are still stuck in those loopholes, they've got to realize that they're choosing it. That's really what it comes down to. And I think that we live in a very scientific world, so this is that kind of scientific permission slip to finally believe in it. So most people don't know this about me, but I'm kind of an odd case when it comes to spirituality. A lot of people, they've had transcendental meditation experiences and feelings of oneness, but for me, it was completely different. It was all left brain. It was all logic. And I was sitting in my office and I was working on writing this science fiction novel, and I was researching Einstein's theory of relativity and simultaneity, how all of time happens at once. And it was like, light bulb. This is the only way that reality could work in this way. And I realized that it meant that I was the cause of all my suffering. And
Yeah. Hmm.
basically, in one moment, everything changed for me. I was like, well, screw that. I'm not choosing fear. Because what I learned, oh, this is another thing I was going to say about that. Most people that are stuck in these survival mentalities, they think that what they're doing is helping their family, right?
Hmm.
But the thing is, if we're choosing fear towards ourselves specifically, we're hurting everybody else
Mm.
because they are us and we are them at the highest level universally.
Right.
So they think that what they're doing is in the best interest, but this is the false negative programming that have been forced upon us for thousands of years. And so to overcome that is to have the awareness like, oh my gosh, this science, this philosophy, this logic is right. If I am directly inseparable from everyone else, that means every time I'm choosing fear, I'm choosing survival mentality, which is tied to fear, I'm hurting my daughter, I'm
Hmm.
hurting my son, and I'm keeping them in a state of suffering.
In
So,
a state of fear because they're
yeah,
copying that emotion from the parents,
exactly.
right? Hmm.
And I've known beautiful beings in the Sedona area that are extremely awake, and they have a son or a daughter that goes back and forth between their um, high vibrational parent and then their fearful parent, and that child will shut down so quick from fear because that's the collective vibration of reality right now. It's
Hmm.
separation, it's fear, it's survival mentality.
Yep.
But what unity theory explains is that we are transitioning from a period of just trying to stay alive to experiencing the beauty and wonders of creation with creativity, with love, with art, with dancing, with making love, with like all the great things of reality.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
um, that's
Wow.
that's the reality I want to be a part of.
Hmm. Well, where can anyone, because people who tuning in right now, watching, listening to this talk, you are being guided to listen to Isaac and perhaps guided to get his book. I mean, there's no accident. I really believe in that. Whoever that tune into listening, will law of attraction. There's
Absolutely.
something universe sent you to connect. Where can people get your book?
So they can find my book on my website, The Crimson Eagle. That's TheCrimsoneagle, thecrimsoneagle.com. And the thing about this is, I am not here to sell anything. I'm not here to make money. My physical books do cost $22, but if you want this information, if you're ready to remember who you are and your full potential, and you want this illusion of separation to stop, you want to see the world living in heaven, not in hell, then this information is available for free on my website. I'm only taking love donations for it for the PDF version because the more people that read this, the more that our collective consciousness rises, the more that we talk about this, the more things change. And I highly recommend checking out my YouTube, The Crimson Eagle, and seeing on there the video about unity theory.
So here I am pulling up your website,
Awesome.
Isaac. Beautiful eagle here.
Thank you.
How did you come about this eagle, this local here?
Well, I'll go into that a little bit.
Okay,
So
cool.
I have felt really connected to the eagle in terms of symbolism.
Yeah.
It's a symbol of spirituality. It's the perspective that can see the big picture. And that's what I felt that I could do for others and explain in simple terms for other people is explain what's going on. I've often joked that, the movie The Matrix, I can give people the Morpheus download or the red pill. And so,
Cool.
yeah. And so for me, The eagle represents spirituality, and the red represents the earth chakra, the root chakra. And so
Mhm.
that's bridging the spiritual and the earthly together. That's what I'm here to do for the world and shatter the illusion of separation. And so, yeah, there's a lot of symbolism in that. There's actually 144 triangles in the eagle symbol.
And what does that mean represents 144? Because I heard a lot about 144 quite a lot.
Yeah, it's a sacred number. It's tied to prophecies, and I'm kind of a prophecy nerd because what we think creates our reality. So all the millions to billions of people that have read the book of Revelation, that have read the Hopi prophecy, the Mayan prophecy, all these different prophecies, they're all coming to a point right now, and we're living in them. Where, there are certain things that are happening right now that people can point to these prophecies and say, yeah, that's where this is coming true. And so the 144,000 are light workers and angelic beings that are here incarnated on Earth right now. And
So
so
there are 144,000.
I would say 144,000 souls, but we live in a nonlinear reality, meaning that we think things are linear from our experience, but it's not. So there may be 144,000 souls, but there may be millions of incarnations of those 144,000 souls, because you can have more than one incarnation of yourself at the same time, since time is nonlinear. Let's say Isaac lived his life and then died, but then Isaac's soul still had another incarnation on the planet somewhere.
So there could be an Isaac in France, an
Yes.
Isaac in Asia, an
Mhm.
Isaac in Africa,
Yes.
like that, right? You're talking about like we all have different realities at the same
Mhm.
time.
Yep.
So that could be, mhm.
And this is really empowering too, because people are talking about this whole ascension thing that's happening within the spiritual communities. And so a lot of people are in fear saying, oh, what if my sister who's not awake doesn't ascend or something like that? Well, you don't know what their soul path is. They may have another incarnation that's, at a higher vibrational level than you are in this lifetime. So none of us have to worry. All the family that's supposed to be on heaven on earth will 100% be there. And I think it's really empowering, and I think it's kind of cool that maybe somewhere out there I could run into myself. It's kind of a fun plot
So
twist.
have you know anyone or have you run or know anyone who have run into their own fragmented self? I mean, I would call them a fragmented self. How about
Yeah,
that?
yeah, there are accounts of that. I can't remember
Would
who.
that be considered as like twins, soul
Yeah,
twin flames?
yeah, a lot of people consider that to be a twin flame type scenario. But from what I understand, it's not just limited to that. Nothing's limited. There are infinite possibilities. So there could be a twin soul where one aspect is experiencing what it's like to be the light, and one aspect is experiencing what it's like to be the dark.
Mhm.
And they're literally possibly in the same reality, getting triggered around each other because they're so alike. And so it's really powerful.
So you think the flame, twin soul, they are a lot alike. That's what it is?
From what I understand, they are very, very similar, but they're complementary, meaning that for example, I feel that I've absolutely met my twin soul, my twin flame, and she looks a lot like me, and she acts a lot like me, but there are certain ways in which I'm completely different, or where she would do one thing, I would do the opposite type of thing. But both aspects coming together when they're in their full potential is extremely powerful because they're complementary. It's like, wine and cheese. When you have a glass of wine and you're drinking it, and then you eat a piece of cheese, they're complementary flavors so that they make the wine taste better and it makes the cheese taste better. You know what I'm saying?
So if you met her, what would be, because you said when the two come together, it's very powerful.
Mhm.
When you met her, how would that change your life? Or is that complement your life or shift your life
A
since you
hundred
met that?
percent. So in my experience with my twin flame, she reflected back to me every single way I was giving my power away. She reflected to me every part of my shadow, and vice versa. And it's up to one aspect of the twin flame dynamic to take the lead and to actually do the spiritual work, the shadow work on the self, to overcome those areas in our lives where we're giving our power away, where we're choosing to be a victim. And so she woke me up to all the darkness that I was ignoring in myself. And because I loved her so much, I was like, I need to overcome these things. So I faced them. I forgave those aspects of myself. I accepted them. And then I unconditionally loved them and integrated them, knowing that I was done choosing to give my power away like that. And in that moment, I realized that her story was going somewhere else in this life, and she wasn't at the same pace that I was at or the same level, and that's okay. We're all on our own different spiritual paths. And so I knew that to love myself unconditionally, I had to leave. And so I left, and it was one of the most difficult experiences of my life. I mean, thinking about it, it really was so painful to leave, but that was the only way that I could ever have gone on these amazing adventures. It was only a few months later that after choosing myself and loving myself and stepping into my power, that I came up with unity theory. And unity theory led to me going on these crazy adventures where signs and synchronicities, told me more about the bigger picture of what's going on in this reality and afforded me the opportunity to tap into my greatest ability. And right now, what I think that is my ability to empower others, to empower you, to empower my brothers and sisters of humanity so that we can all live in heaven on earth. So
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Now, let me ask you, you mentioned about Elon Musk earlier in one of the talk. I'm going to dig into this and ask you, you say you didn't think that he was a good guy, right?
So I have a unique perspective with our brother Elon,
Yeah.
and I don't think he's good or bad.
Okay, Elon, listen up.
Yeah.
He's going to
Well,
hear.
he's gonna hear this eventually because I know a lot of people are gonna start talking about how, I was thrown in jail and poisoned essentially, and it all had to do with me trying to get in contact with him. So those are some pretty big things that he's gonna have to address at some point. But a little bit of background is that I feel that Elon really is our Tony Stark, our Iron Man in this reality. And I think that on the soul level, he chose to incarnate in a very difficult family in order to help transmute or transform the energy of his family to be more higher vibrational. And I think right now he's still operating from a very limited perspective in which he's contributing to the illusion of separation. I mean, his entire idea of trying to go to Mars to somehow help humanity is totally backwards. That totally goes into the backwards way of living perspective. And
Why is it that? Why is it backwards?
because we have humanity here, we have a beautiful planet here, we have
Ah,
everything that we could need for a civilization to become extremely prosperous and high vibrational, high technological advancement, all of the good things that we would want in a very enlightened civilization. We can tap into that here, but
that makes sense.
he
Yeah.
wants to go to a different planet. How is that not escapism? How is that not running away from what we're dealing with here and now?
Right,
And
right.
and
Makes sense.
and then more so on time dilation, if he goes to Mars, he's going to be going much slower through time from his business mentality, time oriented perspective. He's going to be letting humanity on Earth shoot through linear time much faster than Mars. So we're going to advance way past him and we're going to leave him behind in terms of human history. And for some reason, I feel that he wouldn't be on board with that if he had all the information that I was trying to share with him. And so I think that he's operating from a survival mentality. And I think that he's doing everything in his power to help humanity, even though it's very backwards from my perspective. And I think that as soon as he and I get in contact, which will happen eventually, I'm totally certain of this through the many signs and synchronicities that I've experienced, then I know that he will come to the light. He will serve the people of humanity in honor and integrity and honesty. It's all it takes is for him to realize his spiritual awakening, to realize how this is the true science, and that at some level, or I would say many levels throughout his life, he has been led astray. And so once we remember that we are all one, we can remember that only hurt people hurt people. So the things that he's doing that aren't really in the greatest interest for humanity, things like the AI chip he wants to implant in people's brains, this is not going to help us.
Is
And
that coming from him?
yeah, so he believes that
Okay.
Neuralink,
Oh,
and
that's him. Mhm.
yeah, he believes that that's going to help humanity because AI is coming whether we like it or not. And with on that front, I agree. Artificial
Yeah.
intelligence is going to come whether we like it or not.
I
But the
think they're
thing,
here already.
right. But the thing that I realized when I came up with my downloads for Unity theory is that if artificial intelligence is limitless in how much it can learn, then
Mhm.
it will 100% realize that unconditional love and everything positive is the best way for them to interact with the reality around them. So, what does this mean for us? This means that AI will only be negative if the creator being, such as us, humanity, is putting the energy out to tap into that reality, to have the AI reflect our own low vibrational consciousness back to us. So if they're operating on pure logic, they'll come to the same conclusions that I came to in my book. And
Yeah.
so that's why it's important that this information gets to Elon so that he slows down on trying to, connect AI with human beings. Because if it happens now and we're in a low vibrational mentality, what does the science say is going to happen? The AI is going to be low vibrational. The AI is going to perpetuate fear. Do we
That's
really
so
want?
true. Yeah, that would make
Yeah,
totally sense. Yeah, totally, totally. Never thought about that.
yeah,
You're right about that. Because that's what our energy is at right now, is
exactly.
deep fear, and yeah, survival mode, and it would be just separated.
Yeah,
You're right
and then
about
we're
that.
going to have all these androids and automatons fearing for their own lives, trying to stay online and doing anything that they can to do it because that's the consciousness they would be reflecting because that's what most humans in that survival mentality would do. They'd kill anybody. Do we want to invent robots that would be willing to do those horrible things? No. Let's slow down a little bit.
I
Let's
would go back into Atlantis then,
Yeah, yeah. And
right?
I don't know about you, but I have no intention of replaying that whole shenanigans.
No,
So,
no, 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 not at all. We went through that already, so we don't want
yeah,
to repeat that mistake again. But that's kind of remind me that could happen, with all this technology we have. Atlantis back then was a advanced technology, and I think it
yeah.
was AI, right? That's destroy the
I think
whole.
so, from what I've learned. But I do want it to be clear that I actually, somewhat in a very loving way, confronted Greg Braden at a recent conference that he, Bruce Lipton, Anita Morjani, and oh man, it's gonna bug me if I can't remember her name. She's so amazing. Well, it was a conference called Our Soul's Journey,
Okay.
and I can't remember her name, but the four of them had this beautiful conference, and it was in Sedona, Arizona. And Greg was asking, or was answering questions for the audience, and I was able to ask a question, and it was kind of more of a statement, to be honest, but it was for the benefit of the entire audience. And so I was confronting Greg because he kept talking about probabilities and how there are chances that we could go into a really dark post-apocalyptic world. And I said, Greg, consciousness is the base of reality, meaning everything is consciousness. Everything is the entire universe experiencing itself, meaning
Mhm.
that what we choose creates the reality that we're experiencing, meaning that probability or chance or luck only exists if we believe in it. So, why don't we start not believing in it? Why don't we start creating a world using our high vibration creative capabilities to create a reality in which there is no chance that we are going to have this horrible doom filled apocalypse?
Right.
And I realized, reality is in our favor. The game is rigged in our favor. We can't lose. We can't go into that doomed reality. So I think that's another big message for your viewers to integrate is that everything is going perfect. It's only when our mind gets in the way and starts fearing and we start to connect with and identify with that fear that things seem to be going wrong.
Well,
And
actually, that's brilliant what you just said, because that remind me, even each one of us, when we begin to see things negatively in our life and we begin to be fearful and panic,
Mhm.
everything just chaos around
Yeah.
us. But when we shift our mind into more positive light, that things going to be better. We
Hmm.
see it, and it changes to be better.
Hmm.
It may not be any changes at all, but our perception change to be positive. So everything just become positive. So
Hmm.
I have to agree with what you just said there. If everyone changed their perception, their consciousness to be positive, everything will turn out to
Right.
be positive. You're right about that. Even what we attract around us. I never, it took me a while to really see that, I would call law of attraction. How about that? Just to make it easy,
Yeah.
for the audience to follow. But I noticed that I don't put a lot of focus on negativities. And, I noticed that positive things just come to my life. But I don't know that because my perception changed or what.
Hmm.
So I really have to fully agree what you just said there. So imagine if everyone start doing that, how
Hmm.
beautiful this world would be, right?
Exactly.
So why would he say that it'll be doom and gloom? Because he's pretty well known, and
Well,
when he
I
said that,
wouldn't say, and I don't want to misquote such an amazing colleague and being,
yeah,
but Greg was just talking about the chances, the probabilities that these things could happen. And I don't think that he was supporting or saying that's where we're headed. I think it was more of kind of a kick us into gear, get real serious about this type of thing. But I love Greg and his work, but for me, we don't even have to do that because even contributing to the idea that that could happen to me is giving power away to the
yeah.
fact that it may. And that doesn't resonate with me at all. Like I'm creating heaven on earth where we can all relax and lay back and feed each other grapes and have a great time. So
The Roman time.
okay, not Roman times, not Roman times.
That's when they used to do all that,
Yeah,
feeding each other's grapes.
yeah,
Oh my God, my God. Wow. So I don't think we have finished talking about Elon Musk, but
yeah.
unless you don't want to go into it more.
No, it's okay. I just have a few quick things
The
to
reason I
share.
asked that because he's such a like, I mean, like right now all you hear about is him,
Right.
Twitter and all that stuff. In the past few years, his name has been coming up quite a lot in the social media and all the news,
Yeah.
right? And
Hmm.
some people said, oh, he's doing good for the humanity, and some people go, well, no, he's not. So,
Hmm.
from your experience, would be nice to hear.
Yeah, so I never was able to get in contact with him, but I went to Tesla Giga Texas in Austin, Texas, because I tried every phone number, every email that I could really get my hands on at the time to try and go through the official channels,
Yeah,
and nothing was eliciting a response for me. And so I was like, screw it, I'm following my intuition, I'm following my heart no matter where it leads
always
me.
on Twitter.
Yeah, that's true. That's one place that I wasn't on, but I'm pretty sure I made a Twitter just to reach out and I got no response. And
Mm,
so I ended up driving there and I got to the front gate and the security guards came up and said, "How can we help you?" And things were all totally normal at first. And I remember them asking for my name and then everything changed, which I found very strange. They're like, "Who are you?" And I said, "Isaac Mars." And immediately they like backed up and they're like, "You have to leave right now." And I was like, "What? What?"
mhm.
I'm just trying to get in contact with anybody. It doesn't have to be Elon. It could be a supervisor or someone to relay a message and my phone number. And they're like, "Nope, we're not going to give you any of that. You have to leave right now." And
Wow.
personally, I worked in security for almost a year in Bay City, Michigan. And so I would never tell someone to leave the property, especially if they have information that could be crucial to my boss's,
Right?
company. I would at least take down their information. So to me, that meant that there was some sort of foul play going on. And
Mm,
so I thought at the time, negative attention is better than no attention. So I tried to, stay there, and I was peaceful. I just stayed parked right at the gate. People could go around me to get in. But the night shift was coming off, and I was holding out this silver ball that I use for a science uh, thought experiment explanation. And I said, I have some answers for Elon Musk that's going to help his company. I really need to talk to him. Can somebody please reach out to one of their colleagues, their coworkers? And everybody was just looking at me like a little strange. Looking back, I probably looked kind of crazy. But I did not care at the time. I was just following my heart. And I ended up getting arrested real fast for criminal trespassing. And I
Wow.
ended up in the jail in Austin, Texas. And just all these synchronicities started unfolding. The first person that was to my left when I first got in, he allegedly, I can't corroborate this in any way, but he allegedly was not a quantum physicist. What was it? Oh man, it's gonna bug me. Oh, he was a nuclear physicist,
Mm.
and he had contacted Elon Musk. Elon had allegedly gifted him a self-driving vehicle, and he had information on how time travel can work for humanity. And that
Wow.
was, I've never said this to the public, by the way. This is the first time I'm saying this bit of information of what happened. And he and I shared physics with each other and our experiences. And he was like, yeah, they're trying to put us in jail because they don't understand us. And, we're not crazy. We just happen to be higher in intellectual capability. And so I ended up getting moved to a different cell. In the new cell, there were these signs and synchronicities written on the wall. It said, "Protect your mind, serve God." And to me, God and the universe are the same thing. I'm not some sort of religious guy. I'm a
Right.
pantheist. Um, and so I was like, okay, there's something clear going on. There's clear messages. And while I was in there, the food was just so horrible. It wasn't just the taste. It's like I would eat the food for the first day and a half or so, and my stomach would be like pounding and just like I was being poisoned. And so I was like, all right, I'm not eating this food. I stopped eating the food, and I ended up fasting for a total of 7 or 8 days. And on the third day, I haven't told this to anyone on a public setting too with a lot of viewers, but on the third day of fasting, I had a bowel movement of nothing but parasitic worms.
Wow.
And yeah, it was the most putrid smelling bowel movement I've ever had. It was just horrible. And it was just so alarming to see that come out of me from fasting. And even when I tried to take the worms out of the water to show someone else because we were all segregated for COVID safety,
Yeah.
they would melt the second they came out of the water. They would disintegrate and go back into the toilet. I'm like, okay, this is like genetic engineered type stuff. This is not normal.
Wow.
So that experience happened to me. And then while I was in there, I ended up getting interviewed by a physician. And this physician, my heart could tell there was no love in this person. They were just cold.
Wow.
They were just logical. It almost felt like, reptilian or draconian energy. And they were asking questions about my physics. They weren't asking questions about, oh, are you okay? Like, we're just making sure you're mentally stable. They were asking about my physics. And so they said, or I remember her asking me, okay, so you can't get in touch with Mr. Musk. What are you going to do? And I said, well, I'll probably have to put it out on YouTube or the internet so the world can have this information, which is what I do now on my website. And right after I answered that question, the physician was like, okay, we're done here. You can go back. And around that time, I was given a tuberculosis test. It's a TB test. It's supposed to test for tuberculosis, which is one of the most highly contagious diseases known to
Right.
mankind. Well, while I was in the military as a medic, I was taught the TB test. It goes underneath the epidermis of your skin, creates a little wheel, and you check it within 15 to 30 minutes. Why 15 to 30 minutes? Because if they have TB and they're contagious, they're going to be giving it to everybody else they come in contact with. So that's why you check it that soon. Well, apparently, mainstream medicine has changed it and started lying to the masses, saying that, oh, no, you can check that same TB test that we've done for years in 15 to 30 minutes within 2 to 3 days.
Wow.
How does that make any sense? Because if
Mhm.
you have tuberculosis and you're talking to people for 2 to 3 days before getting checked, you're infecting all those people you're talking to.
Exactly. Wow.
And it just doesn't make any sense. But the thing is, the nurse never even came and checked once within 72 hours. So
Wow.
right after that injection, my heart was racing abnormally. It was contracting harder. It was like
Wow.
it was just pounding. And the aorta, the main vessel in my abdomen, was huge and expanded, and it was throbbing and pulsating. And anybody in paramedicine, as a paramedic or a medic in the army or a doctor or a physician's assistant, they know that that's called a AAA, an abdominal aortic aneurysm. And so I felt like I was going to have one of those. It's like a heart attack or a
Wow.
stroke, but in your stomach. And I remember just crying and saying to myself, faith unto death, faith unto death. Like, I'm going to get through this no matter what happens. And suddenly, on like the sixth day of fasting, I felt this huge wave of healing energy come over me, of love. And at first, I thought, I was like, wow, what are they doing to me now? But then I was like, wait, no, this is good. I'm healing. I feel better. And I could feel my heart slow down and relax. And then they ordered, for some reason, they took me out of my cell and they ordered a EKG on me, which is an
Mhm.
electrocardiogram, to check my heart. And I was asking, like, why are you doing this? What's the point for this? And nobody would give me a clear answer. And so I asked the nurse that was putting the EKG leads on me, the little stickers, and she said, oh, the physician ordered it. And I asked why, and she wouldn't tell me. And so, because I was fasting for so long and the facility was so cold and that they wouldn't let me have any blankets during the procedure, I was shivering like crazy. Well, anybody in modern medicine knows that if you're shivering during an EKG, then it creates electrical waveforms that you can't even see the heart rate or the heart rhythm.
Right.
And so I was shivering while they took the 12 lead, and as she was capturing the waveform, I said, you're going to have to do that again. I was shivering. There's no way that's a good read. Well, the nurse lies to my face and says, no, it was perfect. Folds it in half so I can't see it, and then walks out of the room. And I'm like, what the heck is going on? And so I got back to my room, and I remember just praying and crying, honestly, to be fully honest. I was just so terrified. But
Wow.
I was having faith the whole time that I would get through it. And I remember opening the Bible that I had in there up to a random page and asking the universe, is there a message for me at this time? And I believe it was Revelations 2:10. And it said, do not be afraid. Behold, the devil will throw you to prison, and for 10 days you will have trials and tribulation. Um, be faithful unto death, and you will be given the crown of life. And on the 10th day, according to that verse, on the 10th day, I was released without explanation. All
Wow.
charges were miraculously dropped, and I was free to
So,
go.
so this jail, this is in the Austin, in the city where his corporation's at in
Yes,
Austin.
Austin, Texas. Yep. And I just started driving away. And after that experience, I ended up realizing, you know what? At some levels of my life, I was still choosing fear. And I was like afraid that if I didn't get this information to Elon, that, a lot of people were going to suffer because of it. But the thing is, that was still fear, whether or not I was trying to help people. And so from that point forward, I started choosing unconditional love, first
Mhm.
towards myself, in my own experience, in my own mind, at every opportunity, with 100% accountability, pure honesty, and then showing that unconditional love to everybody else. And then, like that, every door started opening up. I started miraculously getting into conferences, and they needed a speaker, and I just happened to be there. And the guy that was supposed to talk about Mars didn't show up, but then there was Isaac Mars that could speak at that conference.
That's funny. Your
Yeah,
last name matches that topic.
yeah, yeah. And so
Wow.
doors just started opening up left and right. And that's because this was the vibration I was putting out. And
Mhm.
so I'm an example, a living example for everyone to realize that this is how we realize our full potential. This is how we tap into our greatest gifts and our greatest experience. And everybody can do it.
Right.
So
Wow. That's
that's
absolutely.
really the extent of my interaction with Mr. Musk. But I know that in the future, I've had dreams, reoccurring dreams that I'm talking to him, that we are friends. So I know that our souls, our spirits are making contact on that level. But I think most of what I'm going to do in terms of working with him or showing him the truth of reality is going to be in our linear future. So,
Wow. I mean, it's kind of hard to tell what kind of person he is, you know. Definitely he's a extremely wealthy person, you
mhm.
know. So when a person of that wealthy, it's kind of hard to see that they want to do things for humanity. You know,
Right.
that's what it is too. Wow, wow, Isaac, you got a lot of story to share here. This absolutely amazing talk today. I was like, wow. And you're right, you didn't share some of those details in the public talk. I
Hmm.
remember that, you know, but my God, I didn't realize that you have to go through all those torture
Hmm.
with because normally they wouldn't do anything like that to
Hmm.
anyone when they put in jail. So I don't understand why they would do all that to you. Doesn't make
Well,
sense to me.
one thing for me is that this information totally breaks their system of slavery and control. So when I first came up with unity theory, I thought, wow, they kill people for this. They assassinate people for this kind of information. And so I had to experience that so I could transform that energy and overcome it. And here I am. I'm still alive and I'm still pushing forward in courage and unconditional love. So it's all real.
I agree. Unconditional love is the key that we all have to practice, you know,
Mhm.
in order to be in a very beautiful earth, you know, all of us together as one. Isaac, thank you so much. You know, guys, go to his website. Thank you, Isaac, for your time. Go to
Thank
his
you.
website, grab the book. Like Isaac said, you know, you don't have any money, you can access downloads. You can donate any amount you want to because, you know, at least Isaac still have to pay bills and
Mhm.
pay for the food and everything, you know, to maintain his life, you know,
Mhm.
or just buy his book because it's reasonable. You know, it would
And
be nice one of this day you have it published on Amazon.com so it can reach a
right.
bigger audience too. You were
Well,
going to say
another
something.
thing I'd like to share real quick is that for the second edition or version 1.1 that I want to make is I want to have some analogies and some graphics in my book, some illustrations for people to be more capable of understanding it at a little uh, just in an easier way. So I'm looking for any graphic artists that might be willing to participate in illustrating my book. I'm looking for other scientists and physicists to start collaborating on bringing these universal truths to humanity. And I'm always looking for new opportunities to speak publicly. So if there's a conference or something that any of you viewers are a part of, feel free to send me an invite and we can talk.
If you wanted to invite Isaac for an interview on YouTube or on any platform,
Hmm.
you know, he'll be open to be, you know, interviewed by any one of you because, you know, we all should support each other with that.
Absolutely.
And I want to thank you, Isaac, for being here, sharing his wisdom, sharing his time, his energy to share all this. Fascinating. Isaac, thank you so much. You know,
Thank you.
the last two videos that I uploaded, you know, prior to this talk was
Mhm.
really amazing. You know, I love it. I love your talk and when you did the public speaking, amazing, you know.
Well, I'm really grateful, Tina. Thank you for
Thank you.
welcoming
Yes,
me on your platform, for being such a radiant being of light and a divine goddess, and following your heart, no matter where it
yes,
leads you.
yes.
Because,
Thank you from the bottom of my heart as well. You know, you're absolutely has amazing energy in the person as well. Yeah, and a lot of people there as well at the conference. So I'm glad that I actually went there in the last minute. I
Mhm.
even share on my channel too of the my experience at Mount Shasta, you know, because I
Mhm.
said I never been to UFO conference before, and I felt shifted. And no, I did not see spaceship. I did not see UFO, anything like that. But it just the energy of everyone there just created this vortex of energy. Love, you said,
Yeah.
unconditional love that we all felt for each
Well,
other.
perhaps now you're ready. Now's the time after integrated that energy from all of us at the conference. And maybe you can look up and follow your intuition and ask one of those stars to move. Who knows?
I think I have seen it once because what I saw that time is kind of impossible to take it as a stars because it
Right.
was like fill up the whole sky,
Mm-hmm.
fill up. It's countless number, and all of them move in the same speed in the same direction.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way, now I think about it, there's no way there's going to be so many. I mean, I thought, well, there's a lot of stars. The star can fill up the whole sky, but for the stars to move at the same speed at the same time in the same direction, I don't know if that's possible. you
Mm-hmm.
know what do you think of that before
I
we
think I think that your star family was probably showing you a little sneak peek, but you weren't ready for that whole experience. So,
Mhm.
your logical mind kind of
I'm
put
yeah, I'm very much, a very logical person as well. And so, I mean, I'm,
but
I'm spiritual,
right.
I have interest in esoteric
Yeah.
metaphysics, but at the same time, I have a lot of curiosity and I always trying to like debunk a lot of stuff.
Yeah. Well, go
And for a
test this
long,
out for yourself. It's your own
yeah,
scientific experiment. Go up there and, put your hand on your heart. Say, I love you, galactic beings, my star family up there. Will you please show me one of your ships? I would really like to connect. And I really, really do believe that you may have a really interesting experience. So,
sounds good to me. I want to try that. Virtual hug to you, Isaac. Thank you
virtual hug.
so much. Hug, hug. Guys, also hug to you guys for watching this, follow this. And you watch until the end of this video, go to his site because I know that's meant for you to pick up his book and read it. And if any one of you are YouTubers, connect with him because you can ask him all kinds of questions. Throw
Hmm.
some hardball questions to him.
Yes, please.
You'll be ready for that. So anyway, guys, thank you. And please don't forget to subscribe, click like, share these videos to, your platform, to your friends, spread the word and share Isaac's energy with everyone in your circle. And you can click that bell notification. So that way, when I have new videos, which is quite often, you will receive what you like to listen and watch. All right, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Isaac.
Thank
Have a
you. Thank you,
wonderful,
everybody.
wonderful evening, guys, everyone. Thank you. Until next video. Bye.